Greetings, everyone. This is Group 1, comprising of team members myself, Dennis, Mercy, and Praveen. The ethical case study that we have selected is about the Volkswagen emissions scandal. We will be covering the case background, the impact the stakeholders had, the ethical dilemmas, evaluation of actions, and we'll conclude after that. The clean diesel illusion that the Volkswagen Group had created to gain a market dominance for the diesel internal combustion engine vehicles was deceptive in nature. We got to know about the deception when the regulators discovered a software which they termed as a defeat device that deliberately tricked the testing system in believing that the emissions created by the vehicle met the standards. This reality created a massive ethical and legal crisis, as well as increased the emission of nitrogen oxide, which is a harmful gas in the environment, as the engines were emitting 40 times the legal limit. The Volkswagen Group clearly prioritized market share over public health in this case. The stakeholders and the duties that they breached from the started from the very top at Volkswagen's leadership. Executives and engineers breached their duty to uphold the laws and ethical standards by knowingly and intentionally creating and deploying a deceptive code to cheat the regulators. The regulators that were tasked with enforcing protections, regulatory bodies, were systematically deceived by Volkswagen's sophisticated solution to deceive the system, as they had created a very closed source ECU software. And the consumers were handed with non-compliant vehicles, resulting in also harmful emissions in the environment. And they also lost trust in the brand as they were deceived by the company. There were legal, ethical, and financial consequences and issues. Uh, Legally, Volkswagen bypassed the emission controls. Ethically, the company knowingly engaged in deceptive practices. And financially, the company ended up losing a lot of public trust in the company.
Yeah, so I will briefly discuss the ethical dilemma behind the Volkswagen emission scandal. The Volkswagen faced a major decision: either admit that their diesel technology could meet the emission standard and a financial losses, or the hide the problem to protect profit. In simple terms, I can say like the honesty and short-term success. So the company chose the unethical path. They created a defeated device, which was software that could detect when the car was being tested, and during tested, the car met all the US rules and regulation regarding emission standard. But if they are driving for the normal condition, it release much higher pollution. So this allowed Volkswagen to save a lot of money and maintain its market position, but it could damage the environment, harm and damage their public trust. However, there was a very good better alternatives, like here, so historical action. So they cannot use those defective device. They can invest some money on their research and development cost, and it can also spend some time to there and do not make that kind of mistake. And the ethical alternatives, so what could happen, they can delay the launch. And I can understand, like they can go for that, financial setback, competition will go ahead, and the different company will go ahead and they will do it. But in the long term, they will come up with that really good company and the good innovation. They can other company can also use it. Whistleblowing, software engineering ethically refuse those faulty code, deceptive code, which already did it, already passing the rules and regulation for the US government. third. So how that this the technology and the software engineer can manipulate the entire system. So what they did, so they wrote that kind of code while for the testing only. For example, they just for the testing only they control that set of that proper speed measurement, steering wheels, all kind of things on the ECU. They design it for only the testing period, and they ignore all the things for that regular or the during normal time. The software was hidden inside the closed system, make it hard to detect for the ears. It shows how powerful technology can be and how important it is to use in a responsibility. If they can choose for the responsible for all the software, they could have gotten a really good technology, but they choose a bad thing. And this is the very powerful for the information technology in the automobile industry.
The financial consequences of Volkswagen decision were enormous. While the company initially sought to increase market share and avoid costly research, the strategy backfired. Following the discovery of the emissions cheating scheme, Volkswagen had to pay more than 30 billion in fines, settlements, and legal costs. In addition, approximately 11 million vehicles worldwide were affected by the scandal. The company also faced or suffered significant reputational damage, loss of consumer trust, and increased regulatory scrutiny. So, what was intended to create a short term competitive advantage ultimately became one of the most costly corporate ethics failure in modern business history. Next slide. So, when looking at Volkswagen, we looked at two ethical theories. So the first one was Kantian deontology. So according to Kant's theory, a business have a duty to act honestly and ethically. In the case of Volkswagen, lying to regulators was inherently wrong, regardless of the financial outcomes that was gained by the stakeholders. Volkswagen's actions were unethical because they involved deliberate deception. Kant argues that we should only act according to the principles that could be universally applied. So, if every company lied to regulators whenever compliance became difficulty, trust in markets and regulatory systems would ultimately collapse. Therefore, this act of deception from Volkswagen was morally wrong, regardless of the profits that it generated. From a utilitarianism perspective, Volkswagen decision also fails. Uh, According to utilitarianism, an action based on an action is based on producing the greatest good for the greatest number of people. While executives and shareholders at Volkswagen may have benefited in the short term, society absorbed the much larger costs. There was excessive emissions which harmed air quality, increased public health risks, and damaged consumer trust. When we consider all stakeholders, the negative consequences greatly outweigh the temporary financial gains. So both ethical frameworks lead to the same conclusion. Volkswagen should have invested in legitimate engineering solutions rather than deceiving regulators. Ethical responsibility and public welfare should have taken precedence over the short-term profits by the stakeholders. In conclusion, Volkswagen emission scandal serves as a powerful reminder that corporate social responsibility and engineering integrity cannot be sacrificed for short-term financial objectives. Ultimately, the long-term survival, legal compliance, and moral standing of an organization far outweigh the temporary benefits gained through deceptive business practices. And I'll end with this quote: doing the right thing may cost more today, but failing to do so can cost an organization everything tomorrow. And with that, this is Team One. Thank you.